Get Tyler. Well placed. All right, 6 o'clock. So first we'll have our annual meeting. So we'll call that to order. Do the motion to approve the agenda for the annual meeting. Second. Favor say aye.
Aye.
So just take a look at the end of the year statements. Questions? Any questions on those? Then? We have any unfinished business? Okay. Make a motion to adjourn the annual board meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Organizational meeting been adjourned. Call the regular board meeting to order. So the first order we'll need to do is the organizational part of it is elect a board president. Anybody like the experience for the year?
Nominate Corey.
Okay, you got Corey, nominated with a second.
Second.
Looks like to make any nominations.
I'll make a motion nomination cease.
Okay,
We probably need to go through a roll call vote unless you want to.
so we have a nomination of Corey Robinson as board president. Yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Been approved. I'll sit right here still.
What is the camera?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, nobody wants to
bad
put
to
the
do it,
camera, that's the problem, right?
As board president, you can choose where you sit, Corey.
Or where the cameras are.
That's right.
I think that, John, I like that. Okay, any changes to this month's agenda? Take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No agenda's been approved. So now we'll just kind of talk about our procedures and date and time for our meetings. Don't know if anybody wants any changes or dates that work all right for everybody. Helps spread out the kids' activities, even though you had practices tonight, I'm sure, but change as you get older. So we have a motion, so keep Robert's rule of order. To meet on the third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. If we have a motion to approve that,
So moved.
Second.
say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Date and times have been approved. Go through the consent items.
No, paid on the bills, since we're so early in the month. Be happy next month with prepaid.
So the roofing repairs been done then.
Yes. And the one section. So during that, what's that?
Wait,
Weight room, yeah. So that one's already been tested a bit and they didn't have any water in here. Say the same for the rest of the building, but I did not have any water. in it.
I mean, it looks from a trending perspective, like we're falling about where we have been past 4 or 5 years.
last year we got to the point where you were concerned, so are there any, based off of the trend, concerns that we'll get to that same point?
No, no concerns. In fact, I feel pretty good about it because if you look back to last year, at year to date, we're actually about 1%, not quite 1% lower from a year ago, and then from 2 years ago, quite a bit. So I think that's some of the budget reductions coming to fruition. It probably, would have been a little bit less had the TSS not come into play for this year. Sure. Or the percentage higher.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm not concerned. We're not flush by any stretch of the imagination. Don't.
It's where you expected it to be.
Yes,
based off
yes, yes,
what we put together.
yeah.
Cameras were, that's part of the safety grant.
It is, yeah. We're getting there slowly but surely. In safety, yeah.
Does that have to be spent by a certain time?
Yeah, December of 25. So, but I would anticipate that, we should be done by, well, I would say December of 24, but it may be January or February, and then the reporting will continue for a little while. There's quite a few hoops you have to go through to get the reimbursement.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same tool. Consent items are approved. Any correspondence? Public forum, go to Sue.
Yeah, well, I go down in our place, so I know I don't often read, but I emailed to you, but just so I don't screw up trying to just narrate it. Otherwise, I thought I would read it this time and read it. So sorry for that here. Okay. A big topic of concern and discussion today is large-scale alienation of factions within society, especially very young. It's just been getting worse and worse. And schools that are choosing to select programs, and Baxter's definitely one of those to help with socialization skills, also need to expand this into each discipline being taught in order to improve the understanding of why we need to work to get along with various factions within society, as well as develop necessary thinking and problem-solving skills at higher levels. I have an example. I first used this with the board when some of you were in school with my kids. And the only board member I remember at the time that actually made a comment when I was done was Bruce. This goes back to Plato. This is nothing just, this goes back to Plato. This is my simple example, and you can use that at a multitude of grade levels and across disciplines to help. Okay. Let's use shape because it's easier to visualize something when you're using a shape. So if we start with, say, a cube, what's the matrix of factors that define that? Well, the length is equal to the width is equal to the height, and all the angles are 90 degrees. Because of those factors that are defining this particular form here, you have certain equations that process the information with regard to those factors. If you change one of those factors, let's say length is not equal to width, it's something else, your equations change as to how you process the information, and they have different properties to them. One more, let's say the angles are not all 90 degrees. Now, tip a little bit here. They have different properties to them, but here again, your matrix has changed. You have different equations for processing and assessing all of the information that have gone in. Okay, you can apply that to absolutely any concept and thought and variety of factors. Okay, that's what I wanted to insert before I get to the rest of this here. We each have different life experiences that are part of a matrix of factors. There are different contexts within which these occur. We have different demographics for different ages, variety of factors involved. That help define how people often see us or who we are. And there are just a whole variety of other factors, but these influence our priorities and our positions on a variety of issues that have to do with our life experiences and how we've been socialized, what we think, how we look at things, and how we respond to people. And these vary not only within our local community, within our county, within our state, within our country, and across various countries of the world. So having some understanding of how complex a matrix of factors can get, it can help you to better ask questions, better try to understand and communicate. You don't have to agree with everybody. It's just necessary to see what you need to do to figure out how to communicate and not react maybe as negatively as what we have going on now. But there are aspects of this that can be incorporated into a whole variety of disciplines across here to help students learn how to better think and problem solve, as well as determine how to find specific facts and not just rely on something they read off the internet somewhere or heard on somebody's podcast. I will also point out, since I have 4 graduate degrees, but the only discipline in which I tend to teach now is political science. So just let me point out here, as long as we're in election season, the founding fathers that wrote our Constitution actually understood this, and a lot of these are explained in the Federalist Papers and how they happen to apply to our government and how they put the whole thing together to try to help people figure out how to communicate and compromise on a variety of issues. Okay, so you can use this approach to develop skill sets in a variety of ways, as well as work with your socialization programs to maybe help improve these. The reason I'm bringing this out now is because of an incident that came up between the last school board meeting and this school board meeting, where you had several teachers up at the high school level talking about a particular student that happened to be asked, why are they spending their class time talking about that student? And within a day or two, you have groups of other students attacking that student. These are things you're trying to get a handle on and put a stop to. And maybe using some of these skills that I've been trying to lay out here and providing a form that might work for you might help you to work at better addressing these, to make it safer for all students that are actually in the school, because the information has been turned over to the feds as a violation of civil rights. So I just wanted to try to contribute something that you might be able to add and some things you're already doing to improve the situation for all students. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. To the principal's reports.
All right, I'll start, and over the last week, I sent out letters to 15 families as a part of our giving tree that we do at the elementary every winter season. And our hope is that over the next month and a half, we'll be able to provide various Christmas presents for families that are in need of assistance. And so throughout the next month, we will put a Christmas tree up in the elementary office, and you'll be able to take an ornament off. Each ornament will represent a gift or gifts for a group of kids and families that are in need. Something that we're really proud of at the elementary, and have already had some people reach back out with some things. So proud of what we do there with that, and excited to be able to provide some fun for kids around this time of year. On Monday, we had our Veterans Assembly, which was really well done. So kudos to everybody that put that together and made that happen. It's just a great event for our entire K through 12 staff and students, and just proud of Baxter and all that it represents, and for all those that have given us what we have here. Last month, we had our DC New York trip meeting, and somehow I'm in charge of that. So it's been good. We have over 55 people signed up for this year's trip, spring of 2026 trip. So excited for that, excited to be a part of it. But a really good showing so far, with people signing up. Conferences, we had almost 100% participation by family members. I think there was only a couple families that didn't show. But proud of that, proud of the people that come up and show and partner with our teachers and families during that conferences to see what's going on and what's going well and what we can do better. We also had a teacher-led PL, and really what that is we have teachers that went and did a math fluency training, and we had them come back and then share out what they found out or what they learned from that training, to our other staff. It was a really good day. Lots of takeaways that they had. We went to that 8 years ago, and we had a couple staff that hadn't gone, so we sent those staff members to the training, and they were able to bring back some new things that we didn't even have 8 years ago. So proud of that learning that we've had there. I also do want to give a shout out to Amanda, who does all of our social media, elementary through district wide. The things that she's putting on social media are pretty impressive. Just want to make sure she got a shout out for those things, and it just looks awesome as you go through and scroll through our Facebook and different things, the things that she puts out for us. So that's all I got.
From the secondary, just a couple quick reminders here. Well, first, our Hall of Fame committee met recently, and the Hall of Fame game is scheduled for December 13th. Our Christmas wreath fundraiser for seniors just wrapped up recently. Saw some pretty good things about that. And we look to have those delivered, or the company looks to have them delivered here sometime around the first week of December. We'll get those out to people. I've started, maybe you've seen some of those posts on social media, or good news calls of the week for the middle school students that are nominated by their teachers. Been receiving some really, those are really fun for me. It's probably like the highlight of my day, to call some of those families and hear their responses to their child being honored for individual efforts in a variety of different ways is really encouraging. And we do have a lot of great students that are doing a lot of really amazing things. So pretty excited about that. Our cross-country team recently, the boys team qualified for the state meet, and we did have Matt Richardson got 8th place and Max Handorf got 12th place. So they were both all-state runners, which I feel is just phenomenal. Michaela True also qualified as an individual on the girls' side. She competed there as well. Cameron Russell will be competing at the state diving championship on Friday evening. She qualified recently. She's just doing a phenomenal job with that. And even though she's not competing, she's competing with the Grinnell team, she's still obviously representing Baxter in a very, very positive
She's
way.
number one.
She is ranked number 1. Yes, she is. So hopefully we can see good things from her at the state meet. And then lastly, our fall musical is next week, November 22nd and the 23rd at 7 p.m. It will be in the East Gym. I know those students have been really practicing hard, and our staff, Miss Flanagan and Mrs. Messerly, coaching them up and trying to get them to perform at their highest level. We look forward to seeing their hard work come to fruition next week. Those are just a few things.
In honor of my 1 year, what's keeping you up at night? What are the things, what's something that bothers you, or do you think we can work with?
What do you have?
I guess, I don't know what necessarily keeps me up at night. It's always about kids and what we can do to best serve them. I feel like we've come a long way in the last year to be able to provide the needs that we have in our building. I said last year that our demographic was changing, and it has. I think we've done a nice job over the last year of really trying to fit the needs of those students. So things that maybe cut me up at this time last year aren't necessarily this year, but it's a kudos to the entire system trying to figure out what are the needs and figuring out exactly what they are, and then trying to do something about it. And I think that we've done that. But I don't necessarily have anything that's truly right now. I'm pretty happy right now.
This case, well, no. I don't know if there's anything this group can necessarily help with, but just kind of echoing what Zach was saying there. Just what keeps me up at night sometimes is just all the unique needs that some of our learners have. And just trying to find resources, supports, whatever, to support all of our learners. I mean, it just continually changes. What it looked like, I was talking to my wife about this last night, what it looked like 20 years ago when I started, to what it looks like now. It's just different. So, and that's okay. It's just, how do we best fit all of our students' needs? That's challenging. But
Thank you. Sorry to put you on.
no, you're fine.
Question? Thanks, guys. On to our co-op agreement with Mingo for girls soccer.
Yeah, so attached there is the agreement that Colfax has sent over, just a few details on it. I know that the wording is a little vague in the expenditures spot. But I've confirmed with their superintendent, really what that will be is a roughly about $500 a participant. We have three. It's gonna cover, and getting a little more specific, it's gonna cover coaching costs only, so I feel like I have enough in writing on that to feel comfortable with that agreement. I also think it's something that we'll want to reevaluate on an annual basis.
Are there any other schools joining Colfax that you're aware of right now?
Not that I'm aware of right now, but right now, you know, our prior arrangement, I think, is kind of in a state of flux right now. I'm not sure they really know how they're going to move forward, so there may end up being some more, but as of right now, not that I know of, I think they're estimating about 18 girls out, which would bring our per pupil expenditure just under $500.
And they just recently got their coach, right? Did I see in the Newton paper? Didn't know.
Yeah,
Track or
well, the
basketball?
program's new, so,
Right, but
or United, you mean, or?
no,
Yeah.
Colfax Mingo, they got a coach now, right?
They do have a coach.
Stepped down from basketball or something, didn't I read the paper?
I'm not
Track or
sure, but I know they have one,
Okay.
and they only have a
Is
girls.
that what it was?
coach.
Okay.
Yeah. They only
Just
have a
girls, yeah, okay, I thought I read that, okay, good.
Any questions on that?
And this was gonna be right there, each student getting themselves to and from practice, right?
That's correct.
Away games, they meet there in
This is-
Colfax and
this
go.
is- Yeah, this is no transportation provided by the district.
Correct. Okay.
And I know that we have 3 interested currently,
That's what we have signed up, yeah.
and then will they, once agreement is placed, will we need to ask again or?
We sure can, and I think that, there's a 2-week kind of grace period, as far as the billing goes as well. So if we have 3 and it'll end up having 2, if the person decides, you know, between now and then, I'm not going out or whatever, then we will get billed for them.
And the parents have signed up, or the students that have signed up, their families understand
Correct,
what this would look like and the driving.
correct.
Take a motion to approve the agreement with Colfax Mingo for the 25 soccer season. Girls.
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Agreement's been approved. Go over the board policy for the negative lunch balance.
So this is just a continuation of the discussion that we had last month, and just, making sure that we're bringing the policy in line with what your, wishes were. We did change, some of the verbiage in there and the dollar amounts. We added that it could go to collections. And so you'll see what those in red is what the changes are. In what's stricken is what was in there previous. So just serve as the first reading, so no action needs to take place. I should say, we did have a donation to two negative lunch accounts. We wish to remain anonymous, so I haven't distributed that, we just received it, so our process is generally to spread it as far as we can to cover most. They did have a few stipulations in place that we'll honor, and so I think that's in light of us discussing this, so we appreciate their
Yeah.
donation.
Is one of those that's just for currently attending students,
Yes,
would be for old accounts. that-
just this year. So even if we have currently attending students, who started the year in a negative environment, that it won't affect them.
So all the dollar amounts look right to everybody.
Hmm.
First reading. Plan for the English language learners.
Yeah, we currently don't have any ELL students, but we still have to have a LAO plan in place as far as how would we serve those. At this point in time, I think we maybe do have a couple of resident students that we tuition out for those services. It's really something that we would probably determine on a case-by-case basis, depending on the severity or the need that student has. But it is a difficult endorsement to find. And it's certainly, we don't have any right now, and I think those two that we had were the first that the district had had in a number of years, so. Something we have in place that can kind of guide us, and if we feel the need moving forward, there may be some other ways that we can service those students depending on the need.
I'll make a motion to approve the K through 12 LAU plan for the upcoming year.
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
No. Plan has been approved. Personnel.
We have a resignation from our cheer sponsor and a contract for an additional boys high school basketball coach based on numbers. They had 32 signed up, but I'm sure someone can speak to that more than I can here.
34 right now currently signed up, which is one less than I wanted for sure. But yes, 34 signed up.
This would be an additional, so I think they're hoping that, or at least striving to schedule either additional JV games or some freshman level games, because that's obviously a high number of kids that try to get playing time for. Certainly want to encourage those high numbers to go out, but then we also have to accommodate how are we going to make sure you can get to see the.
Are those numbers, a lot of them at the JV level, or is it spread throughout kind of?
Yeah, they'll end up being mostly JV players. I mean, that's what it'll end up becoming, but I mean, we've asked Dennis to look and see if there's some freshman games available for any separate night that maybe we can put freshmen together to go play a separate evening. I know Newton, Grinnell, Bonner all have separate freshman teams that we could reach out to and try and do. We've also asked everybody in the conference to play additional JV quarters, so at least 6 on every home game that we have here, if not more. One game for sure is going to be a JV1, JV2 game in a varsity game. So we're trying to provide those opportunities with the numbers that we have. Now we're just going to try and find additional opportunities too.
Yeah.
We have a motion for the resignation of the wrestling cheer sponsor.
So.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Resignation approved. Take a motion to approve the contract for the assistant high school boys basketball coach.
So moved.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
See no. Contract has been approved. Enrollment.
This is for the 25-26 school year for kindergartners, they're way ahead of the game, but. It's good news. Julie's advertising is paying off.
We think we could probably retire this year.
Wasn't planning on a finder's fee, I surely was not.
That's for kindergarten.
Yeah.
Motion through the open enrollment.
So moved.
Second. Say aye.
Aye.
Been approved.
We never did get more than one quote, so we're gonna move forward with Van Monen on the electric for the sign. It's gonna be about 4,500, which will indirectly come out of the safety grant. But it's just a quick update there.
Is that kind of the last piece? Do we have concrete back there yet?
No, the concrete's there. This is the first piece, this is the last piece before we can move the sign, which we already have an agreement with Awesome Signs to do that, so they're just. Waiting on us. We attempted to get a couple of different quotes, but. Waited.
No, they just don't want to get quotes.
It's more of an intensive job than I think was originally thought to, so. But
Just string an extension.
Heavy
Like
duty,
3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, just like,
Let me check.
heavy
on
duty
that.
ones.
So,
Outdoor.
we just trench them in.
Tyler put up his Christmas lights, he probably got some outdoor ones.
Put up the Christmas lights. You thought about that.
All right, move on to superintendent.
yeah, and this one will, the first one will require board approval. The drill and dance team they've been overnight stay in Des Moines for the state drill team competition. That's November 30th. So want to go ahead.
Approve the overnight stay.
Excuse me.
Overnight or out of state.
Oh, okay, gotcha, okay, sorry. Ashley.
I approve. A motion to approve.
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. That's the drill teams have been approved.
I just want to solidify the SRO position. The next step in that is the 2080 agreement. So if there's any opposition to that, speak now. Or else move forward. We understand it's going to be something we will have to ensure that we find space for in the budget. Probably hoping for December, we'll be able to give you some preliminary budgetary data through the CFPM model that will be reflective of the reductions that were made for this year. That will also be able to project out to 5 years with no further action. And then based off that model, we'll make the determination if we need to take further action as far as the budget is concerned. And we'll start that process. So we understand as we project out, that's going to be an expenditure we will have to factor in.
Yeah, like one.
It won't be a light one. So I'm hopeful that the city has offered to help if need be, but I'm also hopeful that the county will continue to explore, which they said they would, other grant opportunities for this. And that maybe when the next time the grant rolls around, we'll at least be able to extend it. If not, maybe even receive the full for those 3 years, if that's an option.
If I remember right, they said some other schools in the county got the full.
Yeah, Linville fully did. And I think they were kind of expecting on getting it. And for whatever reason, I don't know what their criteria is when they really got it. They just think it's full. Get a third or whatever, 125,000 over 3 years, whatever that was.
Didn't you say, wasn't it you saying that some other counties do this with the schools too? So maybe the word's getting out.
Yeah, well, the one superintendent I talked to at Bondry, Rich Powers, they have one that they contract through Polk. And it's, I mean, they pay for it, right? They get the operational sharing, but I mean, it's a rough cost or a total rough cost of about $135,000 a year. When you factor in some of the other expenses, that's obviously beyond salary. So that's kind of the number that they're working off of as well. That's a split cost, obviously, but they'll continue to search for more funding options. And, you know, we certainly, from my seat, can certainly advocate for increased weighting. You know, that position right now is weighted as a 2. I certainly think that we could advocate to weight that position as a 4, which would double our operational sharing revenue. Okay, the next one, this kind of rough idea of a recplex, I think we're just looking for guidance on this point. So we have had Tyler and representing the rec met with a couple that have purchased the property that they want to renovate, possibly add a gym to, if there's interest from the school, community, et cetera, and moving forward with that. Really, the way that's going to work is it's a lease. So they would build it, and then the school, or if we involve the rec or whoever, would pay a monthly lease, 8 to 10 years. They do a similar thing with Bondurant for classroom space. That one's 8 years, and it's usually placed on an escalating scale. So a rough estimate is probably going to be from an annual standpoint, somewhere between $35,000 to $50,000 a year. So really, I guess what I'm looking for is discussion on if it's something that we feel that we pursue. Julie and I have kind of talked about in a very brief manner what we felt like the school might be able to contribute from a facilities funding to something like that. But our concern is, or a question maybe is will the school utilize it enough to make the expense worth it? The idea was a gym, and if I'm misspeaking, Tyler, correct me, an additional gym, and then the front space.
There was a gym. bathrooms, not necessarily locker rooms and showers, just bathrooms. I think they mentioned concession stand. And that was, they kept using the term quart and a half, which I wasn't 100% understanding quart and a half. But it's the Thatcher brand, if you know, and that building, I think they said was 5,600 square foot.
5,000.
Yeah, somewhere in
Of
there.
existing that we renovated, and I think that space was still kind of yet to be determined.
Right.
Depending on what.
And that had office, bathroom, I think it had a paint booth, stuff like that they used. I just kind of asked, what could you utilize that current building with? If you utilize that current building for your restrooms. I'm not an architect or anything, but take the old paint booth, knock a hole in the wall, maybe that's your concession stand, but utilize the ground building facilities you already have, and then just add a building. It's not gonna be your concrete wall panels or anything like that. It's gonna be one of those throw up type buildings. I think the number he said they could do it roughly for $500,000. Is what he could put up, and I think that was just building. I don't think that was renovating the current facility there or whatever, but
That was not,
I think it was just the building was $500,000, right?
I thought that was all in.
Was that all in?
I could be.
Because I know there was some talk of it's on septic out there. I think that would maybe have to get brought up to code if I remember right. For as far as a usage, from my perspective, wearing the two hats, I don't foresee it being a lack of use from the rec side, I kind of threw out the idea that day too, if we involve the community, maybe they do their winter carnival there rather than here, I'm just spitballing ideas to maybe just try to pull in whatever interest we can type deal. But using it throughout the year, I don't think you would have a problem with that. You have your baseball, softball, they're starting to throw in the gym when January, February, I'm not saying ship somebody out there, but we all know sitting in this room that the fight over these two gymnasiums is real and it's been real for years. And not saying this would alleviate it, but definitely help. So.
What did you guys, I can go back to that email, what do we think the least cost could be to the school?
I'm gonna say annually, it's gonna be 35,000 to 50,000.
That's what I thought you had in there. Okay, I just want to make sure that I had that.
Depending on how it's drawn out, depending on the total expense. That's roughing it at $500,000.
Yeah, no, that's fair, but then you asked the question already, but I'll ask it again, just. Are we gonna get that, is the school actually using it that much for that kind of an expense? I mean. That's the minute you don't take this the wrong way, but the minute you kick rec out of our school and into that, we have all the space we need here, right? So it starts to become rec's thing.
And
The city's thing.
And that's what I said that day. If it falls solely on the shoulders of rec, it won't happen.
I understood. Maybe I'm just questioning why the city's not looking at this more.
Right.
And I think a lot of rec programs in say a bigger town even, are under the city's guidance kind of a deal.
And it used to
You guys
be.
are kind of running on your own.
Yeah,
Yeah, it used
to be.
it's through the city, yeah, and a lot of you coached last year, a lot of places you go to, they're recreational facilities, they're not using a school gymnasium like we are, so. It's a want, but is it a need, as the old saying goes, I can see it getting used, but do we need it? And after 8 years.
I did ask Mr. Vaughn about the scheduling and that, because I knew there for a while. I think before maybe we were having practices in the mornings that, we were like really scrapping to get gym time or whatever. He said that while the school always gets, first priority, there really wasn't that big of an issue of you guys getting your gym time the way that you wanted. Like there wasn't people out and full that way.
So,
Second.
I don't sign up for the schedule, so I guess I don't really see that side of it. They tell me you get the gym from 2 to 4 and I show up from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
That's
He didn't seem to have.
right.
There's 2 days on the calendar that it's the Wednesday nights and it's the Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And then, you know, you get some Sundays where, well, you need to be out now by 5 because baseball, softball wants it. School gets priority, I get it. But what do you get? Why do you get a window and then get bumped? You know,
Yeah, that's just kind of scheduling thing.
it is, and it's been that way for years and everybody survives and advances, you know, so. You know, again, after we met, it's a want, not a need. Would it get used? Yes. But I just kind of sit back and wonder, you do it for 8 years, then what?
There's certainly pros and cons when you talk about leasing, and I'll just be perfectly honest with you. A private person can do this at a third of the cost that a school can. Simply based on what we have to follow and what we have to go to from a code standpoint. And maybe this is something that is taken more to the city and the school becomes a lesser partner, and if you have any interest and we're not the heavy carrier of it, I don't know, based on our usage, or it's just something that. This isn't necessarily something that this couple is pushing, they just want to offer to the school first before they decide to develop it in a different manner. Yep. Yep, and there's really, they just wanted to push it to us first, or the community and the school first, because they've had that agreement, I think, with some other towns, so. You know, I know that it, and maybe a more, and maybe a grander fashion had been brought up prior to, out at the complex about some sort of similar facility, maybe a little bit different. So I just want to know how, if we want to just say, no, we're not interested right now, you know, being a little more, we're just not ready to make this jump, go back to them with that. Would you rather the city be approached to see if they want to be the main point of contact with this, or just say, contact the city, we're not interested?
Which hat do you want me to wear? I mean,
Go ahead.
after sleeping on it for a couple weeks after we met. Again, it's a want, it's not a need. We've made it work here all these years. We're gonna continue to make it work around here. You know, I mean. What else, what extra do you have, the cleaning, the maintenance? I mean, I assume they never really talked about insurance. I assume we would be under their insurance when we're using it type deal, you know, I mean, I don't know, but. It's a nice idea, but I don't think it's feasible.
You know, a big facility guy.
There would be plenty of room out there for storage. You can clean out your bus.
Yeah, there you
your bus
go.
barn, yeah.
I guess I agree with Tyler, kind of wants and needs, and I don't think we need it. I mean, I think it helped when we built that multi-purpose and got the wrestling out there during their season to free up some gym time and that. So, I mean, ideally it'd be nice, but we're talking about trying to fund the SRO officer, and then to me, if it's between an SRO officer and that, I'm gonna fall on SRO officer 10 times out of 10, so.
Two different pots though.
I know, but
I would agree with you though, and my concern is the timing of it and what we're trying to do with the roof replacement. Because that would be the same pot.
I think it's something to.
Pursue at this point in time.
I agree. I think like say with that. What was that 4 years ago, I started talking about the building out there. I think it's a great idea. I mean, me then, yeah, we're helping rec with the school, helping out the rec, but we're gonna be paying that money, we just be paying it for us to have something to give to the community, not anything else.
Yeah, and
And I think that, you know, back then it was pretty grand, like say, pretty grand idea, and, you know, you start big, go work your way down. You get up being that big, but,
we're from facilities funding and debt service standpoint, we're not there from a capacity to be able to borrow for that right now. I think the idea is good, it's just the timing of it is just tough right now, I think, with the other things that we're trying to do. And so maybe it's something, if I communicate back from Tyler, that maybe this is a better conversation for the city.
I think they reach out to the city and see if they have a purpose, and if the city doesn't, then you know what, it's yours, do with it what you will.
Okay.
You know, thank you for the thought,
Yeah,
they're thinking of us all, but it's just not in the cards.
Yep.
Yep, I agree.
Perfect. Okay, we discussed this a little bit at the last meeting, the tuition reimbursement policy. This is not a board policy, it's an administrative policy. So it doesn't require any board approval. So really what we're looking for here is input on what, if any, changes that you would like to see made or not made.
You sent that, right? The actual.
Yes. So the current policy, and you correct me if I'm wrong, reads that an employee has to be here for 3 years. And then, and they get their advanced degree or whatever it may be during that time. We will pay that out starting in year 4 over 5 years. At the rate, we pay 50% and then,
If they've completed their masters in your,
yeah, if they've completed it, we start paying out in year 4 over 5 years. And we pay. Really, of the total tuition, we pay 10% back a year, 4 or 5 years. Or we cover 50% of it and pay 20% of that. That's how we do it. Yeah.
What do other schools do in the area? Are you aware of it?
It's kind of a mix, you know, I know that a lot of districts have had in place. That maybe they start paying out earlier, but then they subject. If that person leaves, they have an agreement, they stay so many years, if they leave early, they pay it back. I know that can cause issues trying to get that money back.
Yeah.
I don't know if has occurred here and that's what they went to this policy. I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. But there are some that will start paying earlier. 50% is a pretty standard. Covering half is pretty standard.
I don't think we had a problem with it, but I think that was part of the discussion and when we set it up originally was the potential problem in trying to collect it back if the person left. But
You can put that in writing, but the enforcement part of it is difficult.
yeah,
I mean, realistically, what's the risk of removing a 3 year?
I'm sorry, maybe I should.
Like, realistically, what is the financial exposure of removing a 3 year? Because you're still paying it out
Over
just
five.
a percent over those years. So if you remove that, it doesn't mean that you're paying everything. It just means that they're eligible to receive it, that 10% or whatever, a little bit sooner.
True.
but does that affect one of the reasons we did this was to keep a teacher longer, hopefully on that, but so if we started it, would that affect that goal at all? I mean, we could start.
I don't know that you can determine that, John. That's tough. You know, in a typical situation, it's gonna take a person 2 years to finish it. And then they would stay another year, then you start paying out the year after that. I mean, that would just be a standard situation for most advanced degrees. But to say whether or not that would have an influence on there, I don't know if you could say that. I just don't know.
Maybe I must you were thinking, Ashley, started sooner than 3 years or?
Yeah,
Is that-
so if you remove that cap, at least they're getting it a little bit sooner, so they've completed it, now they can receive it, but they're not getting a lump sum. So there's still incentive to stay, because they're gonna continue.
The
to receive.
payout period and percentage stays the same. It's basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
It's not removing that 3 year, they still have to get done, what you're saying, they still have to complete everything before they are eligible.
Mhm.
And if they happen to if everything happens in 2 years like it's supposed to, we start at 2 years versus 3.
Mhm.
We don't wait that year.
Just that way you're
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, once it's completed, right? You know, and the documents are given. Yeah. So I think too, you gotta think about maybe, let's say a teacher starts their master's program at one school, and they'll be hired in the next year, and they finish it that year, you know, but they've already got kind of 1 year of study already done. I don't know how there's all these scenarios that try to play out that you need to think about.
Okay, so you're saying they have credit sorted already, they come here for 1 year,
Right.
and then we actually start paying them the second year.
Well, what I'm saying
Because
is
they completed in their first year of Baxter.
they were here 1 year, but we're gonna pay for the whole, their whole group.
Well,
That whole
Yeah.
50% of the
Yeah.
2 years. See what I'm saying? Like they should be here during your.
Yeah.
your
course,
master's.
during the course.
The entire course.
Or if it's 1 year here, at another school, 1 year here, we'll pay 50% of the 50%. You know what I'm saying?
50% of the coursework that was completed during your time at Baxter.
Yeah, time at Baxter will pay for. Whatever coursework you're doing here at Baxter. And once that's completed. That might be getting too muddy, I don't know.
I think that's pretty standard, at least, I'm not saying for schools, but from a corporate perspective. Typically, they're only going to reimburse you for the coursework you completed while you were in their employ.
If I remember right, I think it was written initially because those first 2 years are on an initial license. And so then that third year, when you actually receive your license, official license, then that would begin. So it took that initial period out, because a lot of things that can happen in that initial period. So I think it was written in a way that says you'll have your license before we reimburse. Something.
Because you have an initial license
Yes.
for 2 years that could be, you could not renew it after the first year if you weren't happy with the teacher for whatever reason. So after that first year, if we're paying for something and we're not going
Because you don't know what
renew
you
their
really got
contract,
when you first hire.
Right.
That's the hard part.
right?
And that's kind of on us too to hire.
It is.
The job,
Mhm.
but yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think anything that we were to do would obviously not take effect until next school year. So maybe we can take another month to research and come up with like a recommendation of the language of the better explanation of how we got to the current language, current policy, just so we don't short side this.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's a recommendation to us as an administrative policy, right? So. Unless you want to put it into board policy, which I wouldn't recommend. Okay, that's fine. Well, that sounds good. Revisit that. Okay, the website is a topic that has been brought up multiple times, and so, some thanks to Amanda. She's done the lion's share of research on this, and I think we're gonna look at moving forward with Neapolitan Labs. They've done, a handful in this area that are local out of Des Moines. This is something that can be funded out of our PEPAL because it is technology. What I would say, and the quotes we've gotten, this is kind of the middle quote. It's not the lowest where there's just not a lot of support or anything, or structure. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I contacted other districts because I was sure that it couldn't be correct that they were paying $8,800 a year for their website stuff, and it was, so. This would be $1,500 a year. Upfront cost would be $10,000. We could spread that out over 4 years. If you've got the cash on hand to pay upfront, my recommendation would be to pay it upfront. Don't spread it out over 4 years. Locks us in at $1,500 annually for 4 years. After that, if we renew, it's a 5% increase annually.
I think we'd be looking at this kind of in lieu of employees that, I mean, before we had
It's,
employees that could do that. I know we're down on the employees that can do that, so.
Yeah, and so
Substitute
there would still be
this in.
some responsibility for the employees to update, but it would only be information. The structure of the website itself is built by them and supported by them.
What
And you've
SLAs
seen-
and stuff do they have?
So,
What SLAs do they have? Are they gonna guarantee like uptime, turnaround time for bugs? What kind of?
I can share that agreement with you if you want, because we have it's sent to us as far as what their fees cover.
have you seen other schools' websites that they, I mean,
Yeah.
they're easy to navigate, I
Yeah.
guess is the biggest thing, it's not.
Collins, Maxwell, and Colonesco both have utilized them. I would encourage you to go onto
Check.
onto their new websites.
Looking at her.
I think they look pretty nice. Like I said, it's kind of that middle of the road and,
It's the Chevy, it's not the.
yeah, and really what.
That's fine, I mean, I think it's functional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of the features really that you pay for with the additional one is the ability for it to basically sync all of your social media accounts with your website. It's really not necessary in our circumstance, or the ability, really what's the most expensive is having an app that is dedicated to it as well. And I don't know, this is compatible with phones as far as in a browser, so I don't see the need to pay, I don't see the need to pay that.
I agree.
The whole thing just seems expensive though. Like, I mean, it is what it is, but it's, I don't know if the rest of you, I mean, not that I'm a website person, but we've done them ourselves. And I mean, nowadays it's just, they're not expensive to build. You know, and if we're still the ones having to put stuff into it. Maybe my two questions come back to this, is have we offered it to the community to say, can someone help us do this? And see if anybody's willing to volunteer, because like, to some extent, websites are not hard to build. With all the platforms anymore, like, they're built for you, you just plug in the information and put the colors the way you want them. Or two, we really not have like students that can make a project out of this and like actually like make it in today's world, like, I mean, it gets handed off every year to a new class or somebody. It just seems expensive for all the more a website is. I mean, our website's not far from being good, but or far. I mean, it's not there. I agree. I've said it's something I said since day one. I'm with Ashley on this thing. I don't like our website. We can do better, but we're also not far from it being okay. Website. I mean, it just needs some attention.
Well, I'm gonna assume when you went to the way it's handled now, that was said.
Fair enough.
Like I say, we've always been talking about a website for how long?
From, I will tell you from a school standpoint, there's really two. School blocks and Apogee, about 80% of the schools in the state use them. And there's probably 20 to 30, well, maybe that's not that high. This is, I'm telling you, comparatively speaking, this is cheap. The top one was $8,600 a year with an $18,000 startup. I was surprised to see schools of our size utilize that, but they were. There's another company out of Des Moines called Juicebox who does most of the metro schools. That's not in our price range either. So I don't know, I understand what you're saying on that, but I feel like maybe that's what we've been attempting to do for the last 5 years is my guess.
I'd just like to see for the contract, what parts of it they are agreeing to do. Just to see if there's any follow-up questions that I would have, like how much design are they gonna do? How much is required of us, and then that 1,500 annual. What is that actually providing?
I can send you their quote.
And I mean, I have no problem. I'm for doing updates, and I don't think that the amount that they're asking for is out of line with what website design cost. Should it be that expensive? Is it?
Right.
Yes. I just have a little bit of a concern because of it's only as good as how current the information is on it, and that still is going to fall on us. Now,
Okay.
I feel like we're doing a little bit better job in having one person be responsible for it, so we'll be funneling the information to that person. But that's my biggest concern is we spend all this money and then we don't keep it with current information, like you pull up a picture and the kids in it are married and have their own kids by now, you know what I mean? So that's my biggest concern.
And that's what I would expect to see on what the $1,500 covers is an annual refresh of stuff, which, yes, we have to provide it, but they should be the ones prompting time to do the refresh. What areas do we need to adjust? Where are you gonna do documents and pictures.
And I know that the hosting obviously is gonna be part of the $1,500 in.
Yeah, but hosting is nowhere near that
That's cheap. What do we pay now? 300 or 400?
a year.
Yeah.
So like, the hosting piece is a lot smaller, $1,500.
Well, I think you have to decide, is this an endeavor worth spending the money on? Or are we okay with the current website?
My passion is that we need to do something. I just want to make sure that what they've written and stuff that we have questions we can further clarify, just for everybody's understanding. When are we gonna do this? What's the timing? And then for the refreshes, do the refreshes or whatever this annual amount covers. Do they fit in the timeline that makes sense for us? Again, the uptime and SLAs and stuff.
Yeah, I guess I defer to Ashley on that, but I agree, we need something new and, I mean, we've talked before about having students do that, and it's just like, it's hard to hold them responsible, and then the other thing I'm concerned about is consistency from year to year on that. It's like, one group of students might want this, and then next year it's like, hey, this is cool, and then we're in constant flux with it, and it's like, to me, that's not good. I want something that's pretty much, you go back to it every year and you recognize it, I mean, it might have updates or whatever, but it's not something brand new, that you have to learn to navigate again and whatever, so. But I am not tech savvy at all,
So
so.
I'll send the information that we got from all three companies out. You guys can take a look
That's
at
pretty
that.
simple, pretty short.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Just a quick reminder on the convention, it is next Thursday, the 20th. If you want to meet, Julie will meet you to ride together at school at 6:50,
20th or the 21st?
whatever Thursday is. What is Thursday?
21st. Okay.
Is it
It says the 21st, you said the
It's
20th.
21st.
21st? Hold on, it's real time, so now actually it says the 21st. I don't know what you're talking.
I would say, I think the
Can't do web design, but I can read.
Julie just needs a count on those going to dinner, roughly 5 p.m. and tentatively thinking Altoona. I think once she has a count, we'll kind of finalize those plans, so. Let
Do I have
Julie,
to count now?
she wants to count right now.
Right now. Yes,
I'm a practice.
so no to both.
Don't know yet. The wife's got a game Wednesday and Friday, so I gotta.
I'm bringing +1 this year, Jim.
Okay,
Right, too.
Corey two,
Yeah.
Ashley two, Ray two.
You put us down for two, we don't show, right?
It's okay. Don't have a chair.
Gonna, take the other one, Dan's gonna bribe me, bribe him.
Okay, thank you all.
Last thing on here, we held our SIAC meeting tonight. I'll provide more information on that next month, but the Iowa Student Performance Profile was released publicly this morning. I'll also discuss that in a little bit greater detail because that changed the way those are scored. I can tell you that both of our buildings were commendable, kind of right in the middle of the commendable range. That's great. It's good news. But I'll kind of, it's a little bit deeper of a topic than to just get into right now since it was just released. And so we'll go through that at the next meeting. Any questions on any of those things I reported on? Or anything else that was not included?
All right, nothing else.
What a motion.
Motion, Tyler.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Meeting adjourned 7:04. Quicker than I thought.
Is the meeting in December going to be the third Wednesday of the month? Okay, well, I asked because